Hey everyone, welcome back to TwoGuyzTech. I'm Rob, and today we have a pretty special video for you. We recently had the opportunity to do an unboxing and overview of the SVS PB16-Ultra, and in that video we promised you a complete and honest review. Well, after several weeks of testing and putting this sub through its paces, it's time to let you know what we found out right after the intro. Now, before we get started, I want to thank SVS for sending us this sub for review. It was very nice of them, and we really do appreciate it. With that said, this isn't a sponsored video, and all of the opinions shown are ours and ours alone. SVS had no say of what went into the video, and they didn't get to preview it before we published it to YouTube. Alright, so on to the review. SVS is an online, direct-to-consumer manufacturer that sells a huge variety of speakers. Whether you're into home theater or music, it's more than likely that SVS has you covered, be it subs, bookshelves, Atmos height speakers, or large towers. They have it all at a variety of price points. The PB16-Ultra is their top-of-the-line flagship subwoofer, and as you can see, it's one big, beautiful sub. With its flawless, high-gloss piano black finish and its fiber-reinforced 16-inch woofer, it's a sight to behold, and as I said in the unboxing, it's one of the best-looking subs I've ever seen. The good news is, this isn't just a pretty sub, and SVS didn't originally start by making great-looking subs, but instead, they started by making great-sounding subs. In fact, the specs for this sub are even more impressive than its looks. SVS started by developing a new 16-inch driver with a lightweight fiberglass resin composite that is rigid and will never flex under room-shaking, low-frequency effects. They combine this with a newly designed 8-inch edge-wound voice coil, which they claim is the largest ever used in a consumer subwoofer. The driver also utilizes 4 large toroidal ferrite magnets that produce a huge amount of magnetic force to drive the speaker to the highest levels of excursion and lowest frequency output. And here's a fun fact. The driver alone weighs almost 70 pounds. That right there shows you SVS isn't messing around, because man, let me tell you, that is one massive driver. To power their new driver, SVS is using a high-efficiency Class D sludge amplifier with 1500 watts continuous and an incredible 5000 watts peak output power. The amp also employs a sophisticated app-controlled audio DSP, so you can fine-tune the sub to match your room and speakers, which we'll talk about more in a bit. As far as connectivity goes, the amp has RCA inputs and outputs, a 3 to 12 volt trigger input, balanced input and outputs, a 3-prong power input, and an on-off switch. And the last part of the puzzle for SVS was to design a cabinet capable of withstanding the extreme forces produced by the new driver. This was achieved by using a double-thick MDF front baffle and by employing tons of strategically placed internal bracing. This brought the total weight of the PB16-Ultra to a staggering 175 pounds. The end result was a subwoofer capable of producing the deepest low frequencies while being played at reference levels, without any resonance or coloration from the cabinet. Alright, I know you guys are dying for us to get into the testing, and don't worry, we're almost there. But before we can get started, we need to properly set the sub up for our room. We did this by using the SVS smartphone app, which I find absolutely amazing, and honestly I think every sub should have something like this because it's so convenient and it works so well. From the app, you have access to volume control, Parametric EQ, and a whole lot of other very useful settings. But before we get too far into it, let's see what the app actually looks like and how to use it. Once you have the PB16-Ultra paired with your phone, using the app is very easy. The home screen lets you control the volume of your subwoofer and set which preset you'd like to use, either none, music, custom, or default. Using the small icon in the top right corner of the screen, you have the ability to go to other sections of the app, and going down the list, the next option we'll look at is the low-pass filter, which will allow you to set a predetermined cutoff point so the sub won't produce any frequencies higher than what you set here. By default, this setting is off. If you turn it on, it will be set at 80 Hz, which conforms to THX standards. The next option is phase adjustment. This lets you change the phase of the sub anywhere from 0 to 180 degrees, which can be really useful if you have more than one sub. Next, the polarity option lets you adjust the polarity coming out of the sub, which is set to positive by default. Moving on, we have the Parametric EQ, which allows you to match the subwoofer to your room and your speakers by customizing any of the 3 blank profiles provided by SVS. This is an incredibly powerful tool, which we'll cover more in our SVS app setup guide video, but all you need to know for now is that it works extremely well. Next, the room gain compensation setting will let you further match the subwoofer to your room and eliminate bloated sounding bass by rolling off frequency response below either 25, 31, or 40 Hz. Next, the port tuning option lets you change the output of the PB16-Ultra based on the port configuration. By default, this is set to standard, but there are 3 options you can choose from. Standard, where all ports are open; extended, where one port is plugged; and sealed, where all ports are plugged. Now, as we mentioned in our unboxing, SVS is currently only shipping the PB16 with 1 port plug. But if you want 3, all you have to do is give them special instruction to include them at checkout, and they'll be added free of charge. And next we have presets, where you can save your own custom sets of settings for different types of content like music or movies, and quickly switch between them. And finally, in the settings option, you have some really useful tools like changing the name of your subwoofer, whether you want to enable subwoofer standby, the default reading timeout duration, and the brightness of the display. And you can reset the subwoofer back to its factory settings. There are also options to contact SVS support and tutorials to help guide you through the app. Once we had the PB16-Ultra set up, it was time to hook it up and start testing. We plugged a sub directly into our processor and turned off our own subwoofers and bass shakers. Also, just a quick heads up, we tried 3 different mics and none of them actually worked to capture the true sound of this sub. The first scene we're going to demo is Avengers Endgame. This is the part right after the Hulk uses the Infinity Stones to bring everybody back, and Thanos shoots missiles from his ship into the Avengers headquarters. So keep that in mind and let's get into the demo.
I think it worked.
Alright, so that was definitely pretty amazing. I could actually feel it in my chest when the rockets exploded. It's almost like we have our bass shakers turned on, but of course they're not. And like I said, the microphones just don't do justice for this subwoofer. What you guys are hearing on YouTube is nothing like what we're actually hearing. It's really actually amazing. Alright, so next up we have Elita Battle Angel. This is the part where she stands up to the Centurion and saves the little dog near the beginning of the movie.
Step aside. Out of the way.
Outstanding.
And now here's a scene from the movie Fury, where they're driving the tanks across a big field and being shot at with anti-tank guns.
Okay, ceasefire, target destroyed.
Fire! Who's got a gun? Who's got eyes on it? Got it! That's a tank. What?
And finally, we couldn't call this video a review without showing you the very beginning of Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, those demos sounded absolutely amazing. But let me tell you, the Edge of Tomorrow demo was just unbelievable. The energy coming out of the sub was literally shaking everything on our walls. Just check out this metal movie reel. It literally looks like it's waving in the wind, but it's purely from the sound pressure that's being produced out of the ports of the sub. And that was so cool, we just had to film it from another angle. Now obviously we're not going to be listening to movies at this volume. Our goal here is to demonstrate the capabilities of the sub. Trying to do that through our microphone and then through YouTube, it's really hard for us to convey just how good the subwoofer is. That's why we're putting so much emphasis on how much impact this sub has in our room. Other videos on YouTube have tried this by putting paper in front of the ports to show air movement, or knocking over cans, or even blowing out multiple candles, and those are all great ideas, but we decided to try something a little different. We want to see if this sub can actually move enough air to spin this 120mm computer fan. So let's see if it can. Alright, so as you can see, it actually did spin the fan, but it had so much pressure, it blew it over. So we tried it again, but this time we actually taped the fan to the port.
I'm not sure if we're even on the air.
Wow.
This is,
And man, this thing had absolutely no problem spinning the fan to what looks like a pretty high RPM. Not only is it spinning the fan, but for a minute there, I literally thought it was going to blow the fan off the port again, even though it was taped on pretty securely. Alright, that was fun, but now it's time to get back to testing. Obviously, we're really impressed with this sub for movies, but now it's time to see how it sounds for music. So we started with the track Where We Started by Lost Sky. For all of our music tests, we put the included foam plug in the middle port and set the PB16-Ultra to extended mode. We then continued our testing with soundtracks from albums like The Hunter by Jennifer Warnes, Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits, Fresh Air 3 by Mannheim Steamroller, The Wall by Pink Floyd, and World Machine by Level 42. We didn't include that footage here because it's just so easy to get a copyright strike here on YouTube when it comes to music. Now if you're thinking that's really not that much testing, the fact is these are just movies and songs that we decided to mention or use in this review. We've actually been testing this sub every day for the last 2 weeks with numerous films and music so we could properly evaluate its performance. And when it comes to music, this PB16 did not disappoint. Now I could sit here and try to wow you with big audiophile words to convince you how good it sounds, but I'm not going to do that because with this subwoofer, hearing is believing and it speaks for itself. What I will say is it's one of the best sounding subwoofers I've ever heard. And that's saying a lot coming from me because I've always preferred the tight and controlled bass that is a natural characteristic of sealed subs. And that's what's so incredible about the PB16, the fact that it's ported but it exhibits the characteristics of a sealed sub with the output of a ported sub. In fact, if I didn't know it was ported, I would have guessed it was sealed. It sounds that good. Now you might be thinking, Rob, you're sounding more and more like an SVS fanboy, and I'd have to agree, but let me tell you why I'm a fanboy. This is my first hands-on experience with an SVS product, and honestly, I'm blown away by its build and sound quality. But the main reason I could be considered a fanboy is because of something SVS calls their customer bill of rights. And the part that I'm most impressed with is their 45-day in-home trial period. This allows you to purchase anything from SVS, try it out at home in your own listening environment, and if you don't absolutely love it, or it's just not what you thought it would be, you can send it back, get a full refund, and they'll even pay for return shipping. Now here's the real beauty of this in-home trial. You don't have to believe a single word I've said in this review. You can try out their products and let your own ears decide whether or not everything I've said in this review is honest and correct. So I guess by now it's pretty obvious that we love this sub. And I really think it's pretty amazing that SVS could put so much technology into a sub that costs $24.99. Now I know that sounds like a lot, but if you consider you're getting a reference class sub that's built like a tank, has a finish like a luxury car, and sounds so incredible, then I think it actually becomes quite a bargain. And that's why it's going to be such a sad day when we have to send this back to SVS. I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to experience such an impressive subwoofer, and I'll continue to enjoy it until the day we have to send it back. And lastly, I want to give another huge thanks to SVS for sending us this sub to review. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about the PB16 Ultra, let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. If you already own a PB16 Ultra, or if you're planning on buying one, let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, have an awesome day.